Operation Sindhu, Tharoor, and Swami Vivekananda. Welcome, Swagatam, Jai Hind. Belatedly, the government of India took the decision to send various teams comprising very distinguished political and parliamentary figures of India to various countries to explain India's side of Operation Sindoor, the why, wherefore, and why not of it. Uh, I wish an exercise had been undertaken before Sindoor was launched, but it will be better late than never. But as I read this news, the thought that came to my mind was about Swami Vivekananda. Swami Vivekananda was not sent by the government of India. At that time, of course, India was ruled by the British, and there was no way the British would send him to represent India. He went on his own, and he did. He went to the World Parliament of Religions without any invitation. And almost as an act of God, he got the opportunity to address the Parliament, and that created history. Now, I cannot but compare these two exercises. Think of, in the interest of brevity, think of two characters, two persons, not characters. Tharoor, perhaps the most flamboyant, most popular, most distinguished among all the delegates chosen and sent by the government of India in this regard, to represent the cause of India in the eye of the global community. So that's a great task assigned to Tharoor and the many, many leaders that are given this task, representing various political parties in this country. And then on the other side, think of Swami Vivekananda. See the difference. The tragedy today is we have a Tharoor. Having Tharoor is not the tragedy, don't misunderstand me. But we don't have a Swami Vivekananda. That is our tragedy. The tragedy is not that we have a Tharoor. The tragedy is that we don't have a Swami Vivekananda. What the distinguished members of the World Parliament of Religions assembled in Chicago heard at that time was the authentic voice of the soul of India. Today, there is none to represent that voice. That is our tragedy. Why am I saying this? I'm not saying this to belittle the very well-meaning, able, and distinguished members of the various delegations who have undertaken a very important task on behalf of the country, and I wish them well. But I'm saying this in order to share with you and express my sadness that we are getting gradually, steadily alienated from the very soul of India. I remember reading a very beautiful book by a French historian, almost a philosopher of history. His name is Amartya de Reincourt. His book is readily available. I read this book about 35-40 years ago. The Soul of India by Amartya de Reincourt. So I'm very fond of that concept, the soul of India. Sometimes we refer to the destiny of India. Swami Vivekananda was highly excited about fulfilling the destiny of India, but fulfilling the destiny of India not for the sake of India alone, but for the sake of the global community, exactly like Fyodor Dostoevsky in the Russian context believed that the destiny of Russia must be fulfilled for the sake of the whole world. So there is such a vision. But today, we talk a lot about Hindu religion, Hindu culture, we are very patriotic, we are this, we are that. But when we really raise the question, who represents the soul of India? We actually hit embarrassment. Actually, a few months ago, when the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, went to the Vivekananda Memorial Rock there to meditate. Initially, I was greatly excited. I thought he was going there to imbibe the spirit of Swami Vivekananda. And I thought that would really mark a significant turning point in the continuing evolution of India as a robust, modern, democratic, but spiritually informed nation. Because I believe that ultimately, nation is a spiritual concept. When I say this, it may raise hackles among many people because people would think that I'm talking the language of European nationalism and the second half of the 19th century, which led to a lot of bloodshed in the first half of the 20th century. No, I have nothing to do with that kind of nationalism. But I believe that every nation has a plan, has a place and purpose in the plan of God. I don't believe that a nation comes into existence just like that. I don't believe that a nation is merely an accident of history. I believe with Hegel, the German philosopher, that a nation is an act of God, a creation of God. And therefore, a nation is imbued with a sense of destiny, and a nation therefore cannot exist for itself. It must cultivate that higher and larger awareness of being part of this much larger process of the continuing evolution of the human species, in the process of which every nation has to make its own unique contributions, which no other nation can really make. Only such a nation fulfills its destiny. Now, Swami Vivekananda was aware of this. And I'm sure that the motivation for his going to the World Parliament of Religions in Chicago lies here. And therefore, when he addressed the assembly there, my brothers and sisters of America, it suddenly touched a chord. Here was a man coming from a subjugated people who have for long experienced the yoke of foreign domination. But here is a man who represents a culture, a civilization, a spiritual civilization that could withstand the rough and tough of time and hold its own. And in his many writings, Swami Vivekananda explains the reason for it. And I commend this particularly to my Hindu brothers and sisters to read and reread Swami Vivekananda, especially in today's context. Now, Swami Vivekananda was particularly convinced that the Indian spiritual vision was crucially relevant to the process of nation building. At the same time, he was also aware that many of the religious rituals, practices, customs, and traditions pulled the whole process in a direction opposite to that. For example, he felt that this excessive focus on meditation, which actually cultivated passivity in human beings, was harmful to nation building, and therefore he advocated that every nation loving Indian must become a karma yogi. A karma yogi. So he has a book on karma yoga, Raja Yoga, Karma Yoga. Now, he advocated a kind of, say, an activism as far as service is concerned. He believed in actively shaping the status quo, taking it many, many steps closer to perfection. Not only that, he realized that in this process, the main thing is not just material resources, science, technology, knowledge, etc., everything we need. In fact, the great thing about Swami Vivekananda is that he represents a beautiful balance between the East and the West. He advocated a marriage between the spiritual software of the East and the scientific technological hardware of the West. Or if you like, the soul of India to dwell in the body of the world. Like in the case of India itself, Swami Vivekananda said, the India of the future must be the Vedantic soul in an Islamic body. Now, he represented that culture of integration. Today, we have embraced a culture of disintegration. And a culture of disintegration has to preserve itself with extreme intolerance. So, wherever there is reliance placed on intolerance and the suppression of free thinking, suppression of dissent, etc., please understand the message is very clear. And it's very clear in the context of America today, which is declining very fast. When a nation declines, it loses its self confidence and suddenly tries to treat that mental deficiency, that mental sickness, with the terrible medicine of intolerance, suppression. So, the vision that Swami Vivekananda propounded of the vision, the integrity vision for India, is something that is profoundly relevant today. But unfortunately, we today find ourselves in a mindset which, according to Swami Vivekananda, to the extent that I understand him, is a far cry from that integrity soul, which has the capacity to assimilate a whole uh, spectrum of thoughts, insights, etc., and yet hold its own. And that's the great achievement. India is a palimpsest of many cultures and civilizations. But the coming in of many of these influences did not erase the authenticity of that which is typically quintessentially Indian. Now, that's the greatness of India. The greatness of India is not to say you're different from me, therefore you get out. In fact, that's a weakness of India. In fact, that is totally alien to the spirit of India, to the extent that I understand it. And I'm sure Swami Vivekananda would agree. So, what India should do, our top priority should be what would really help India, both in the medium term and the long term, is not sending delegations here, there, everywhere to explain our position to all Tom, Dick, and Harry. What we have to do is to rediscover the soul of India. And many people will be upset or even disappointed with what I'm saying because we have lost confidence in ourselves. I believe that the Indian spiritual culture represents something of unique and incomparable worth. It was Max Muller, the lectures that he delivered in London to the candidates who were selected for the Indian civil service then, collected together and published in a small volume titled What India May Teach Us. It's an eye opener. So, today we have lost sight of our essential heritage. That heritage is one of tolerance, that heritage is one of the deep and incredible resilience of the soul. That heritage is one of self confidence and not one of nervousness that results in intolerance of every kind. That heritage is also believing in the universality of the human soul and therefore the idea that the whole of humanity constitutes one indivisible family, as is articulated by the seers of old, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is one family. Now, if we really put that spiritual vision to practice, one immediate implication as far as the foreign policy for India is concerned is that we will create a happy state of peaceful coexistence with our neighbors. And that is therefore something that I want to talk about very briefly. I'll be very brief about it. My dear brothers and sisters of India, the future of India does not lie in fighting many a battle with Pakistan. If you are realistic, you will agree with me that's utterly foolish, impossible to enter into an armed conflict with Pakistan so long as both India and Pakistan are nuclear states. You don't need high intelligence or rare wisdom to know that two nuclear countries cannot get into a meaningful, decisive armed conflict and emerge from it anyone surviving. It's impossible. So, this is what's called MAD or mutually assured destruction. It's not an achievement to ensure that people on the other side of the line and people on this side of the line all get wiped out. What an achievement is it? That's not the way forward at all. The way forward is India, China, and Pakistan living together as good neighbors, together seeking to take maximum advantage of the new opportunities that are emerging, particularly in the wake of the very fast decline, indeed, shall I say, the disarray of the United States of America. America under Trump is doing all it can in the most foolish manner possible to try and retain their hold on the slippery ground. And the more they're trying to do that, the more the ground will slip under them. America is a sinking superpower. China is an emerging superpower. And a sense of history should tell you that future rests with the rising superpower, not with the sinking superpower. Now, one word about Operation Sindoor. What is it that Operation Sindoor has revealed? Operation Sindoor has revealed, or thanks to Operation Sindoor, the most unfortunate or the most promising development is that Pakistan and China have become one. Most regrettably, we have driven Pakistan into the lap of China. What the Indian Air Force encountered was not the might of the Pak Air Force alone. It was a combined might of Pakistan and PLA, People's Liberation Army, China. I don't want to go into operational details because I am not a technical person, but the outcome is there for all to see. So this is a reality which nobody can ignore. Secondly, please remember that when Prime Minister Modi assumed office in 2014, he made a promise to the country. He makes many promises which he promptly forgets. He said India will catch up with China in 5 years. Now it's going to be 10 years, more than 10 years. Where are we? We are lagging far, far, far behind. We can make a hoo-ha about our becoming the fourth largest economy in the world. But it's not the GDP number that matters, it's the per capita number that matters. We are nowhere near China. And we will not be anywhere near China, especially if we go the way we are going now for the many, many decades to come. Rather than deem China as an enemy, we must emulate China. Today, China has become the riddle of the West. Especially in the wake of Operation Sindoor, all the military strategists of the West are scrambling up to make sense of what has happened. Do you know 7 Western countries are begging to India for permission to examine the wreckage left by Operation Sindoor because they want to find out what kind of technology China used. Suddenly the world realizes that China has gone way ahead of even America in certain domains of military technology. Now, why has this happened? It has happened because China, for a long time, very quietly worked to develop itself, to do justice to itself, to develop its potential, and China has much to show for it. About 50 years ago, India and China were more or less on the same plane. Today, they are far, far ahead. We are trying to cultivate this person, that person, belong to this camp, that camp. We are trying to borrow technology from here, there, everywhere. We are trying to encourage foreign direct investment. All that's good. I don't have a problem. What I'm saying is there is no substitute for developing yourself. Why can't we invest enough in R&D, research and development? Why can't we turn our universities into knowledge-producing centers? Why can't we increase the standard and quality of higher education in this country to global standards? Why can't we become producers of new patents, new knowledge, new processes? You think Indians are not capable? You think we lack the genius? We are second to none as far as the genius of the people is concerned. There's a problem with the way we organize our national affairs. I'm not blaming a party. All parties are equally blamable in this respect. No party has actually bothered to do justice to the genius of India. This is something that we as citizens of India must collectively now clamor for. Propaganda will not take us anywhere. Spinning various tissues of falsehood in order to impress people doesn't take us anywhere. According to Arnav Goswami, during the time when Operation Sindoor was in progress, India captured Karachi, India devastated Rawalpindi, Pakistan is groveling in the dust. And there were retired army generals sitting and clapping as though Pakistan is in shambles. Pakistan is in shambles not because of us. Pakistan is shambles because of Pakistanis, particularly because of the Pakistani army. And unfortunately, the greatest disservice Operation Sindoor has done is that it has given to the Mullah General of Pakistan, Mullah Asim Munir, a great promotion. He is now Field Marshal Asim Munir, much to the heartbreak of the people of Pakistan. Now, therefore, the time has come for us to really become patriotic. We are not enough of patriots to try and develop our country. And I am convinced that developing India must be a spiritual project. When I say this, I'm not advocating any religion at all. Hindus constitute a majority. 80%, 82% of India believe in and practice Hinduism. So as a citizen of India and as a Democrat, I have absolutely no problem, even as I remain an ardent follower of Jesus Christ, who is the very essence of my spiritual vision. I have absolutely no problem in saying that the maximum resources for the spiritual empowerment of India in the process of our nation building that can be drawn from the Hindu spiritual tradition must be accepted. It is acceptable to me. I have no problem. For example, take Gita, the divine song. I have read the Gita with great astonishment, to tell you the truth, because the meeting points between the Gita and the teachings of Jesus Christ are simply too many. But when I say this, Christians will get very upset. It's good that we get upset sometimes. Now take one doctrine from the Gita. Nishkama karma. Dispassionate work. Do your work, but do not get attached to the fruits thereof. Now apply that concept, the central vision of the Gita, to Operation Sindoor. Was Operation Sindoor carried out without any regard for the political fruits, the political harvest that could be gathered from it? I don't know. I leave that question with you. So it's very easy to invoke the name of a religion. It's easy to pump one's chest in the name of religious cultural nationalism, religious renaissance, Garu se kaho, hum Hindu hai, etc. It's all very easy. But when it comes to actually giving effect to the spiritual vision of Hinduism, who is there? Where is Swami Vivekananda to be found? Shashi Tharoor has written a book, Why I Am a Hindu. But does he really care to insist that the spiritual vision of Hinduism should be put to practice? Does he argue that the spiritual vision of Hinduism is relevant and of tremendous application, tremendous beneficial application to the political culture of India? More specifically, let me ask you, does Shashi Tharoor believe that it is possible to be faithful to the spiritual vision of Hinduism and also participate in the post-truth politics, which is the pride of India today? Hinduism is foremost among all religions in recognizing God as the truth, God as truth. And at the same time, the very same people who sponsor Hinduism for political purposes have absolutely no qualms in propounding, practicing, benefiting from post-truth politics, which denies the very relevance of or very admissibility of truth. So, communal religion of every kind has to be a denial of God. Never mind by which religion you know God. God and communal religion cannot coexist. That's the most fundamental principle that every Indian citizen must know. Whether you are a Christian, Muslim, Hindu, it doesn't make any difference. So, in the midst of all this, I miss Swami Vivekananda. I miss Swami Vivekananda. I wish we had a Vivekananda to depute, to represent India among the nations of the world. But there is a problem. If a person like Swami Vivekananda were to be deputed, there would be no predicting as to what he would say there, what kind of idea of India he would project, and whether or not Swami Vivekananda would really consent to be on the delegation or to lead the delegation that would justify any kind of military action or action of this kind, particularly given the fact that Operation Sindoor has not achieved any of the stated goals, with which the whole process began. That's the reason why it is still considered and still maintained as an inconclusive operation. Has Operation Sindoor ended? No, it has not ended. Is it going on? We do not know if it's going on, but it has not ended. Why? Because the stated purposes have not been achieved. The 4 people who massacred our brothers, our 26 brothers in Pahalgam, none of them has been caught. The sponsors and facilitators of anti-India terrorism, with their bases, ample substantial bases in Pakistan, they have not been eliminated. Certainly not. Their promoters in the Pak army, not only that they have not been taught a lesson, the main promoter has received a massive boost, is today the Field Marshal of Pakistan. Nor have we managed to secure the endorsement of the sensible democracies of the world to stand with us. One of the most disappointing realities is that India was virtually alone in this process. Whereas Pakistan had the massive support, enthusiastic support of China, of Turkey, and of course several other countries behind the scene. We claim the support of Taliban. Who else? All of the many countries, of course, said we are all against terrorists. But nobody said that Pakistan was behind it. At least to the best of my knowledge, nobody did. It's quite easy to say we are all. In principle, we are all against terrorism. Who is in favor of terrorism? None. You ask Pakistanis, they themselves will say, ask Asim Munir, he will say, we are in principle against terror. But what I am promoting is not terrorism, but a nationalist movement. That's the problem. So, the future of India does not lie this way. I believe that the future of India lies in the way blazed by Swami Vivekananda. Let us do justice to the soul of India, and everything else will take care of itself. And in this context, I am reminded of a statement by Jesus Christ. He said, seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. I adapt that verse, or that statement by Jesus, and say in conclusion, seek first to do justice to the soul, the genius, and the potential of India, and everything else will take care of itself. Jai Hind.